Right then, hello everybody, 𝗕𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗍𝒑 of FourFourTwo, and England versus Slovakia. No matter how much you may have tried to repress those 120 minutes in your memory, it is time to talk about them. Now on the one hand, it was probably one of the worst performances you've ever seen from England, but on the other, it included one of the best moments you've ever seen from England. And hidden within the story of that complete and utter mess are, of course, reasons to be incredibly worried, but also, maybe just a few reasons to actually be encouraged. All right, so obviously no major changes for England here, but we did get the one thing everyone was asking for, and that was Mainoo starting in the midfield instead of Conor Gallagher. His whole thing is you let you play through the press, he'll get you on the ball a bit more, and he did, mostly, but that was not what the problem was today. Because rather than pressing England high and stopping them having the ball building up in sort of their own third of the pitch, Slovakia instead sat off and just completely blocked out the central part of the pitch. And that is, to be fair, probably how I would set up against this England side. You get nice and organised defensive lines in the middle, and you say to them, it doesn't matter how much quality you've got in these central areas, we're going to make it really difficult for you to play through. So instead, you're going to have to stretch us. And England, for various reasons, cannot stretch teams. And this forced England into a bit of a weird shape, okay? I'm going to show you the average positions of them across the 90 minutes. And first off, you basically have to disregard 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 from this graph because he spent quite a large chunk of those 120 minutes at right wing back and at left back. So he's sort of getting dragged away from where he spent the majority of the game in this graph. But what it does show you is that structurally, England basically went to a back three with Kyle Walker on the right. Kieran Trippier pushed all the way up this side, providing all the air quotes width. Phil Foden was pretty much alongside Harry Kane in the centre, with Bellingham behind them as a 10. Now, average position graphs are useful to an extent, but they very rarely tell you the whole story. So instead, I'm going to swap this with the pass map. And you'll just notice here, there's a little gap where there should be a line. And that tells you that Phil Foden did not connect with a single pass once in the game with Harry Kane or Jude Bellingham. He never found them, they never found him. Now we'll get to Foden a little bit later on, but I just want to show you what this sort of system did for the respective performances of Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier. Right? I'm going to show you both their heat maps at exactly the same time here. Now Trippier, as you can see, receives the ball in this area of the pitch an awful lot. He was always England's outball on the left-hand side. Again, we'll come back to that. And Kyle Walker, yes, he does get up once or twice, certainly in the early phases of the game, but he spent most of sort of the second half of the first half and all of the second half sort of sitting as this right-sided centre-back. And Slovakia basically forced England to do this, by the way. In the opening exchanges, they got in down that side more than once as a result of Walker pushing up to try and get nearer to 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗏. And Slovakia, give them their credit, their goal actually comes from this shape that they forced England into. When this long ball comes over that caused all the problems, you see Kieran Trippier, he's way further forward on the left-hand side, and Walker, Gay, and Stones have sort of come across as a back three. Now, it's a mistake from John Stones. He gets drawn to the ball when he really should sort of leave Mark Gay to deal with it, and his movement across to the left-hand side pulls England's entire defence that way and creates this just huge amount of space that Kyle Walker, who shouldn't be there in the first place, kind of has to decide how to cover. Now, Mark Gay also makes a mistake here. He just kind of stands there, allows the player to run off him. But one thing, I don't think anyone's pointed out yet, right? As the danger appears, as it becomes clear Slovakia have a good chance, I want you to note on the pitch where Kyle Walker is. Now, what should be happening here is this is England's left back, these are the two centre backs, and a right back should be around here somewhere. But because of Foden playing so centrally, so narrow, and Trippier having to provide all the attacking width down that side, they're actually shifted over one. Left back, two centre backs, right back, enormous gap. Now, because Stones recovers and gets goal side of this attacker, Kyle Walker realises, oh, I shouldn't be here. There's a huge hole on this opposite side. So he vacates the position he's in, remember where that was, and scrambles across to cut out that pass. Now, I'm not digging him out here because at the time of him making this decision, both Stones and Gay are goal side of these two attackers. So he technically does the right thing. Because Gay's allowed the player to make the run off him, just look where he receives that through ball. That is the exact part of the pitch that Kyle Walker was already in about 2 or 3 seconds before that. Now that is actually, in my opinion, pretty expertly manufactured by Slovakia, but it's part of the risk-reward of what England are trying to do here. By having somebody like Foden on that left-hand side, who's never going to stay on that left-hand side, doesn't want to be on that left-hand side. You're forced to commit another player to try and stretch Slovakia because, again, remember, they're all congested in the middle. You have to stretch them out, and as a result, you're short-handed and disorganized at the back. And this is why I said at the start of the video, there might just be a few reasons to be encouraged by this, because England stuck with it. It was technically the right thing to be doing, and then in the second half, just for a moment, it clicked perfectly and they tore Slovakia open with it. Now, maybe I'm clutching at straws. Maybe it's a coping mechanism after all the things I've been forced to watch England fail to do at the Euros so far, but the equalizer in the 50th minute contained every single thing they were trying to do here, working in perfect harmony. 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗔 receives the ball, not with his back to goal, not with a defender up his arse, but in a position where he can move forward into the attacking third. We haven't seen that enough. And then, rather than just leaving him completely isolated, there's a run provided by Jude Bellingham ahead of him, which gives him an option and also pulls a defender away, leaving him with some space. Harry Kane, rather than just dropping deep already, adding absolutely nothing to the situation, is running towards goal. He's forcing the Slovakia defence back, which means when he does receive his defeat, he's created a bit of space for himself. And just for once, as a little treat for all of us, because Phil Foden has come inside centrally and dragged the defender, leaving all this space on the left, Kieran Trippier actually uses it properly and runs into it. And then, and I mean truly do honestly savour how sweet this moment tastes, Trippier does what a left-footed left-back would do in this situation and uses his left foot. And had Phil Foden simply known what offside was, for the first time in this tournament, England would have looked at a complex defensive puzzle, correctly figured it out, and then beaten it. But of course, he didn't, so thus England didn't, so thus none of this really matters. But after a tournament performance that has so far been about as light and as fun as a Nordic crime drama where the victim is a very small girl, it was nice to see. And also, of course, because one of the main hallmarks of all the lesser teams at the Euro so far has been great defensive organisation. As soon as this happened, and then a few minutes later, Trippier goes off for Saka, they were like, ah yes, of course, the left-hand side, we'll shut that off now. The thing is, these aren't like personal attacks on Trippier or Foden. I'm not saying they're bad players by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that Foden's going into a congested area where he's far easily to defend against, and he's obviously not got the link-ups with Bellingham and Kane that he does with his colleagues at Man City, and Kieran Trippier is just so unsuitable to be in this position and this role, it's causing huge issues. Like, this is Foden's individual pass map for that game, and you'll notice there's like two themes to what's on offer here. First off, when he is holding the width on the left-hand side, so many of his passes are backwards. You can see these will be the ones here when England are building up and he's out there instead of Trippier. They all just immediately sort of go backwards. And when he does get it in the final third, he's unable to sort of find players around the box or balls into the box. And you can see as well, he's obviously got license to sort of float around to the right-hand side if that's where he thinks the opportunities are, if that's where he thinks he can make something happen. But even there, he's really struggling to do anything incisive. But the real problem by a mile is Kieran Trippier being right-footed. Like, I'll show you his pass map from the game, and it's very similar to Foden's in the sense that so many of them are back in field. He so rarely plays the ball down the line for Foden, or in particular, look how few times he even gets the ball where the space was. Like, there were so many times in that match, just like the goal England had disallowed, where there was yawning chasms of space on that left-hand side because Foden had successfully dragged the defender all the way into the centre. But when the ball is played out to Trippier, he can't then take it on his left foot and drive into that space. He normally has to check, decide what he's going to do, and then because he can't go that way, come back in field. Like, it's frustrating enough when it happens in this part of the pitch, because you can see England basically hit a brick wall in their build-up and have to go back round the other way. But when it happens here, when the option is there for a left footer to drive into the space that's being left, it's just, like, it's borderline unfair to have him in this position at this point. Like, trust me, he is a very good player, but when your objective is to stretch a team out across the line to create bits of space to play in, and then you've got a player in that space who can't play in that space, what's the point? Like, for crying out loud at this point, like, Mark Gay's not going to get to play in the Switzerland game, because when Trippier receives the ball here and a left back would have the option of going that way with it, he has to sort of be a bit indecisive, he kind of panics a bit, and he shorts the pass back on his right foot. But the thing is, if you've been watching the coverage of the Euros on this channel, you've heard me say all this like 3 or 4 times now. Foden's a huge tactical issue and he's not quite got the synergy in that part of the pitch, and Kieran Trippier shouldn't be out there and it's causing England all these problems, right? We knew all that going in, but the things we learned in this game that were new at least were good. And by things, I mean 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗜𝗍. Now this is a heat map from the match, but it's not actually Mainoo's heat map, because I think his influence on the game was better sort of illustrated in Declan Rice's performance than it was his, right? Now Rice, I actually thought was really, really good in this game, and this is pretty much what his heat maps look like for Arsenal. They're slightly more weighted across to the left-hand side, and yes, he is busy in his own half of the pitch, but look how much influence he's able to exert further up. And we just have not seen him be able to play like this for England this summer, because this is what his heat map looked like in the Denmark game. There was so much onus on him to be the one receiving that first pass out of defence. And as again, we discussed in loads of other videos, he hates doing that. He can't play a pass between the lines. He can't really beat a man. Every team England play want him in that position because it's not where he's any good. But because England had Mainoo there instead, then first of all, Slovakia were not comfortable pressing them as high up the pitch as other teams have been, but also he just wants to get on that ball regardless of where the defensive pressure is. Like you can see he's receiving it here and he's being very neat, he's being very tidy, nothing too major, but also he's getting into this half of the pitch and he's taking the ball under pressure. Now you saw it yourself, it wasn't just his passing, he was occasionally receiving the ball in really good positions, not being afraid to go past a player, having that sort of control, that skill, that ability to move the ball forward that we never ever see from Rice. But there was one tiny moment in this game that practically had me out of my seat cheering. Mainoo gets the ball here and there is such an easy pass backwards. No disrespect to Declan Rice, but that is the pass he makes in that position. But Mainoo goes, nah, come on, there must be something I can do forwards. He takes a slight risk, he gets it around the player, he gives it to Saka instead, and England fashion a chance out of that. Now, the one downside I will say about Mainoo is that it was clear that the rest of the side don't fully trust him yet in those positions. Like when you've been playing so safe and so conservative and used to players having to give you it straight back in those positions, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment, it's going to take a little bit of faith to give them the ball and the kind of pressure they can handle. There was a load of times where I was screaming, Mainoo, he'll turn, he'll get it on the half turn, he'll play it forward, and they just didn't want to do it. But they have to. They just absolutely have to start trusting him, right? I'll show you one more graph that illustrates why that is. Okay, these are all of Jordan Pickford's successful passes, right? You'll see there's one or two of these are really long, but they are all, right, I've checked the times, they are all past about the 85th minute where Slovakia were camped on the edge of their own box, right? Everything else he did successfully in the game was short, it was tidy, it was composed, it was building out from the back. And these are all his unsuccessful passes. Almost every single time in regular play, Jordan Pickford went long from the back where they didn't trust giving it to Mainoo to try and build forwards. England lost possession. Now, I am genuinely kind of astonished at sort of how many times this didn't work. You'd expect one or two to be in there somewhere. Harry Kane is genuinely very good at dropping off and holding up the ball, but he was losing those individual battles against Slovakia. It was not an option for England at all, and all it did was invite the pressure back on. And the thing is, that's sort of the end of all the insightful analysis I'm capable of providing for this game, right? Because had that finished 1-0, there'd be huge sections here about Harry Kane's inability to really get on the end of chances, about Jude Bellingham's entirely anonymous performance, how they should both have obviously been substituted way before the end of that game. But it was clear that Gareth Southgate has a level of trust in their ability to deliver moments out of virtually nothing, right? And you can't really talk about that with graphs or stats or any of that stuff. He chucked Tony on with 90 seconds left to sort of disrupt the defence a bit. They persisted with these floated, sort of hopeful balls into the box. And then magically, in the 95th minute, one produced one of the greatest England goals you've ever seen at a major tournament. Like, had he taken those players off, that would not have happened. So, yeah. Like, I mean, it's not really something you would normally say on a tactics and analysis channel, but when you've got footballers capable of delivering you moments out of nothing, then when nothing is literally what's happening, you just sort of sometimes have to trust them, I guess. And I think maybe that's why I feel slightly hopeful about the rest of the tournament after that performance. Like, England's problems feel obvious and like things they can work to address. And defensively, aside from like one lapse in concentration and a blammer from about 45 yards, they've been largely quite solid. Like, you look at the struggles all the other major countries are having in this tournament, and clearly nobody, aside maybe Spain, have really got to grips with what they're trying to do yet. Just, there's something here. Maybe it's just individual greatness, but there is something here. Now, yes, it does sort of feel unlikely that given how good Switzerland have been, that England will get past them purely on vibes alone, which this system feels like it is. But if they can just slightly address one or two of these issues, maybe Luke Shaw comes back in, maybe they trust Mainoo a bit more. They've clearly got the personnel in this side to just make something happen. And my God, if they get all the way to the final and actually win the thing, playing the worst football you've ever seen, I promise you right now, you will not care one tiny little bit. Anyway though, like I say, maybe this is all just some enormous deranged coping mechanism on my part, so we'd dearly love to know what you all think in the comments below. We've had unbelievable interaction on our England videos thus far. The comments have been absolutely brilliant, so please do contribute down there. And if you don't want to miss any more videos, these Euros, my God, we've got so more coming. Hit the subscribe button here on FourFourTwo. We had an unbelievable month for that last month as well, so genuinely from the bottom of my cold, dead black heart, thank you so much, everybody. In the meantime, though, you can grab me on all the socials at @𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗘. The 442 socials are in the corner of the video. I did have a brand new issue of the magazine to show you all today, but I went and left that at home like an idiot, so look forward to it in the rest of the week. And until next time, they've added about 20 years to me, these England games, but I should still be alive long enough to talk to you about the quarterfinals. So, till then, bye.